Good morning, second years. Okay, I'm going to be taking you through chapter 5. For those of you who don't remember who I am, I'm Dr. Annet, and I'm going to be doing chapter 5 with you guys today. And I hope you will enjoy the chapter. I just want to say one thing before I start. Please, if you can't understand some of the concepts that I've said in the lecture, you are more than welcome to make use of your tutorials or to and discuss some of these questions that you have concerns with your tutors, and so that they can explain some of the concepts further. You are also welcome to come to my office. I will be in the office on Thursday, and my consultation times are between 10:30 and 12 o'clock. So you're more than welcome to come to the office and we have a chat and we go through the content. I understand that there's some of you who want case studies and examples. The examples that are used in the textbook are more than sufficient for you guys at your level. And of course, you are free, you are second years, of course, you are free to go to YouTube and to watch some examples on YouTube just to supplement some of the information that you're getting from the lecturers as well as from your tutorials. That's why you are at university. You are more than welcome to do that. But the content that is in the textbook, there's a reason why we are using a textbook and a specific textbook. There are many textbooks on child development, a lot of them, but we are using one prescribed textbook because we believe it's the best textbook that we can use for your level, and it's the content in the textbook is very sufficient. So the examples that I use are the examples that are in your textbook, and sometimes I will use examples outside of your textbook with regards to some information that I have. But you are more than free to come and consult with me, and you are more than free to engage with other content on YouTube. YouTube is your friend. Always remember that, especially when it comes to psychology context and developmental psychology. And just always bear in mind, there's always a reason why we use a particular prescribed textbook, because that's the content that we want you guys to engage mostly with. So I'd like you guys to please engage with that and make use of your tutorials. And you are more than free to email me or to come and see me in my office. My office is in the Humanities building on the 11th floor. It's 11-4. That is my office, 11-4. You'll see a beautiful picture of me right next to my office, smiling and being very friendly. Please, you are more than welcome to just drop in and just come and have a chat with me. I don't mind that at all. Okay, I want us to start with advice from children. I found this to be very funny. I laughed when I read this. It's on page 225 in your textbook on chapter 5. So let's go. The first one is from Patrick, who is 10 years old. And Patrick says, never trust a dog to watch your food. I found that to be very funny. And it's just a nice way to introduce the chapter. So a 10-year-old Patrick says, never trust a dog to watch your food. I think Patrick is right, guys. Dogs are the last things or last animals that you should trust with your food. Your food is going to be gone. I thought that was funny. And then the second one is advice from Michelle or Michael. It's Michael, I think, who is 12 years old. And Michael says, when your dad is mad and asks you, do I look stupid? Don't answer him. Hey, my goodness. So Michael says, don't ask your dad if he's really mad and he's asking you, do I look stupid? Don't answer. It's a trap, according to 12-year-old Michael. And let's go to Lauren, who's 9. Lauren says, felt markers are not good to use as lipstick. Okay, when you get a bad grade in school, show it to your mom when she's on the phone. That's Aliesha, who's 12 years old. So if you get a bad mark at school, show it to your mom, but only when she's on the phone. Don't show her when she's not on the phone. The best time to show a bad mark to your parent is when they are occupied. The next one, never tell your mom her diets are not working. Don't do that. Nathaniel, who's 10 years old, is advising people, don't say to your mom that her diet is not working. And the last three advice from children, Kimberly, who's 11 years old, says, when your mom is mad at your dad, don't let her brush your hair. That's really funny. So Kimberly, 11-year-old Kimberly says, don't allow your mom to brush your hair when she's mad at your dad. In fact, I think we should take that advice that when your mom is just mad in general, she should stay away from your hair. Cannot be good for your hair to have an angry mom brushing your hair, according to Kimberly. And then Layla, who's 9, or Lael, who's 9, says, never hold a vacuum cleaner and a cat at the same time. Not a good idea. And the last one from Elaine, who's 11, says, never try to baptize a cat. That's very funny. I would have loved to hear some of you, but we're not having a live lecture, but it's okay. It's fine. Just some advices that you guys have that are staying with kids and have kids. What are some of the advices that kids can give that will just make you laugh so hard, but at the same time they have such wisdom, as if they're not coming from these children. Okay, so what we're going to be looking at is physical development. That's your 5.1. We'll be looking at general physical development and the development of motor skills during middle childhood. And then those of you who have children who are in this age group, one of the most outstanding characteristics at this age is how long and how fast their arms and their legs grow. You'll find that their arms and their legs grow faster than their torso. Torso is their body, or longer rather than their torso and body when they are in that middle age childhood stage. And that's not uncommon. That happens a lot. But also you discover that if you look at your child, or if you look at a child from the time that they are infants to the time that they are toddlers, there's also a rapid growth at that stage. It's almost like they're growing an inch every single day. If you measure them every month, you see that they are literally growing. So in as much as when they are now in middle childhood, their legs and their and their arms grow faster than their body. It's a bit slower in terms of that from infancy to a toddler to the time they are toddlers, but there is that significant growth in terms of their physical development. So this phenomenon of the torso growing slower at a slower rate than the arms and the legs, it's largely responsible for children's lanky appearance during middle childhood. You see that they look a little bit oddish, too much too long. They just look a little bit oddish in terms of their torso. But remember, they are still growing, so they're supposed to look oddish. With respect to height and mass, the average annual growth is about 6 centimeters and 2 kilograms respectively. Because of factors such as better health care and nutrition, children in many parts of the world are growing faster and bigger than their previous generations did. They're also growing very smarter. I mean, if we're all honest, I think most children these days are much smarter, and because of the exposure, of course, than we were when we were children. Some of you who believe in the or some theorists who believe in evolution theory will say that's how evolution is. So as we evolved and as we continue to evolve, not only do we evolve physically, but mentally also we evolve. So yeah, that's what happens in terms of the general physical development. By the end of middle childhood, the brain has almost reached its adult size and weight by the end of middle childhood. It is noteworthy that this refers only to volume and mass, not the structure of the interconnections. Especially important during middle childhood is the development of the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe is right here. It's at the front. Go to the brain structure. You'll see where the frontal lobe is. These lobes, located in the front of the brain just under the skull, have been called the essence of our humanities, because that's where our thinking, our logic, our emotions are regulated. Essence of humanity, because they are responsible for judgment, impulse control, planning, reasoning, emotions, memory, and problem solving. Together with increasing brain connections, children are able to master increasingly difficult cognitive tasks, such as performing a series of tasks in a reasonable order. A practical example is building a self-powered toy. The different pieces must be unpacked and checked to see whether all the pieces are there. Then the different parts must be connected, and then the batteries must be added together. So by the end of middle childhood, the brain has almost reached its adult size and weight. And so what that doesn't mean that the child is now fully a functioning adult, because the interconnections are still not fully developed yet. But it also explains why some of these kids are so smart, because the frontal lobe is the one that develops first, the reasoning ability, emotional regulations. So they now learn how to regulate their emotions and not to be crying all the time or to be angry all the time, and just other planning, reasoning, control, memory. They can remember things. If something happens at school, they will tell you, oh, my breakfast is finished, you need to make me you need to bring me another breakfast. They remember that, so because their memory is being developed at that stage. Okay, and then another point, as the respiratory system functions more economically and the elasticity of the lungs increase, breathing becomes deeper and slower. Try it if you've got a child who's at this stage at your house. Try to do breathing techniques with them. They get bored easily, but just to see how deeper they can breathe, how much depth they can do in terms of deep breathing. The milk teeth are lost and replaced by permanent teeth. I think I made an example about my own daughter. She lost her milk tooth last month as well, a first tooth ever. Of course, I had to put money under the pillow because she wanted because the tooth fairy was going to give her money in exchange for her tooth. So those kinds of crises happen. So they lose their first tooth. They're very talkative. They think. You can see that these people are thinking. Their reasoning ability starts to be more developed, and then very soon they also enjoy the fact that the permanent tooth is now growing, and they are preparing to lose their second tooth. So that's what happens. The process is largely completed by the end of middle childhood. The process of them losing their milk teeth and getting their permanent teeth. Okay. In some children, the problem disappears as they become older and further growth occurs. The problem of condition where the teeth are not aligned properly, which results in faulty contact between the upper and lower teeth. Of course, some people can go to the dentist to just fix this problem of malocclusion. Okay, so but anyway, in some children it does disappear, and some of them go to the dentist. They get the braces just to align their teeth more. Although vision is well developed, prevalence studies have shown that up to 20% of children have vision problems. The most common problem in the middle childhood is myopia, or nearsighted. Distant objects are out of focus, but closer objects are not. This could affect almost all spheres of children's life, including school, and their ability to do their work and their confidence in terms of doing their work. So that happens. But also there are other issues like hearing, but you do eye testing just to make sure that your child's sight is okay, and visual hearing. Sometimes most schools have got these screening measures that they use to screen the auditory functioning of the child as well as visual functioning of the child. Okay, but we must emphasize that the above is based on averages. in terms of girls and the boys. Please make sure that that friend, those of you who've got access to that road, I spoke about it in the last chapter, the Road to Health, the clinic book. It's pink for girls and usually blue for boys, or red. And then it just tells you the averages of by this time, or by this age, your child should be doing A, B, C, D. They should be this tall. They should be their head circumference should be this. Always remember those are averages. So if you are exposed to a child who doesn't meet that average, and you are very concerned, take the child to a pediatrician to raise your concerns to see. Otherwise, also always bear in mind that these are averages. They are saying these are averages. So you can see from the statements that I read to you, the advice from the children, that they are reasoning. For example, that first one that cracked me up, it was very funny. The one from Patrick, 10-year-old Patrick, that never trust a dog to watch your food. It means that Patrick left his food and asked his dog to please watch over the food. And when Patrick came back, the food was gone. So in his own reasoning, he reasoned that, oh, that was actually a bad idea for me to ask my dog to watch to watch my food. Okay, we've done the general characteristics. I've talked about them. So the learning outcomes after studying this: physical and motor development, cognitive development, personality development, and social development. Okay, now let's go to sexuality in middle childhood. We're going to look at general or incorrect view of children's sexuality. How do they view sexuality? Do they understand it? What is sexuality at that stage? What does it mean at that stage for children? Gender consistency and sexual orientation. Masturbation. Is it good for you to encourage your children to masturbate when they're at that stage? Do they even understand what it is? That is something that happens. Sexual games, curiosity and exploration, behavior that should be investigated, conveying knowledge about sexual reproduction. Okay, let's go to cognitive development first. Okay, so concrete operational, we're going to talk about Piaget's theory of concrete operational stage. And then we're going to go to information processing, language, and academic achievement. So the concrete operational stage spans ages 7 to 11 and signifies the stage in which children start using mental operations and to solve problems and reason, and to try to reason. Mental operations are strategies and rules that make thinking more systematic and more powerful. Some mental operations apply to numbers such as addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. So that's why it's advised when children are in middle, like for 5-year-olds, 6-year-olds, you can start introducing them to mathematical concepts, addition, subtraction, and just give them easy things. Because of the stage that they are cognitively, they are able to do those basic mathematics, and they should know the difference between division and multiplication. Start with addition and subtraction, and just to also to assist them in that development. So they start to organize objects according to shape, sizes, and colors. If you go to preschool, those of you who have got children in middle school, you'll see that in most of the schools they've got these kinds of shapes, and they try to organize shapes according to those colors and shapes and objects. They try to organize objects according to that. If you go to toy shops as well, educational shops, it's also about the alignment and the organization and the planning around those kinds of shapes and colors, and just try to they try to solve problems using those kinds of things. Okay, and then information development of information processing, cognitive development theories try to explain how experiences and mental structures interact to produce cognitive growth. You may recall from chapter 1, which I did with you guys, that Piaget's explanation of cognitive development emphasizes equilibrium, which is the process by which mental structures are recognized so that schemas may assimilate information more easily. Information processing theories believe that developmental change occurs in several important forms rather than through a single mechanism such as equilibration. Some of these are discussed below. Memory. Let's go to this table 5.1 on your textbook. It has child's age and memory capabilities. Again, so these are averages. Even if you go to a pediatrician's room, you will see some of these charts and some of these averages that are supposed to be used as indications of where your child is or where your child should be, or if your child is advanced. So under the age of 2, infants remember actions and routines that involve them. Memory is implicit, triggered by sights and sounds, e.g. interactive toy or a caregiver's voice. They can hear a song and then they remember that they like that song and they dance to that song. Between 2 and 5 years old, words are used to encode and to retrieve memory. So explicit memory begins. Although children do not use memory strategies, children remember things. They remember their phone number, their address, the name of their school, rhymes of songs, sometimes without truly understanding them. They just remember them. But you should engage them still, and just to see how far they can go in terms of their reasoning, and just to see how far they understand some of these things that they say. Do they say it without understanding them, or do they actually understand them? And then between 5 and 7, that's very exciting for a lot of parents, because you now get to see how these children really engage and reason and understand things. So between 5 and 7, children realize that some things should be remembered, and they begin to use simple strategies. Primary rehearsals with enough repetitions, automaticity occurs. So for example, they know that they should know how to count from 1 to 10 or from 1 to 100. So they actively know that this is not a random memory, it's something that they should always remember. So those are the repetitions, the memory of it could be numbers, it could be they should remember where they stay, they should remember the name of their mom and the name of their dad, they should know the name of their school and what age they are, what is their age, etc., etc. Then from age 7 to 9 years old, children use new strategies if they are taught them. They use visual clues, that is remembering what the spelling of a particular word looks like, and auditory hints, rhymes, letters, that is evidence from the visual spatial sketchpad and phonological loop. Sorry for my pronunciation there. Children now benefit from organization of things to be remembered. And then from 9 years to 11 years old, memory becomes more adaptive and strategic as children become able to learn various memory techniques from parents, teachers, and other children. They can organize material themselves. They develop their own memory aids. So for example, with my child that I like to make example of, watch some of her videos. I've posted some of her videos on the channel that I'm going to post this video on. So when she counts, I'm actually going to do a video of her counting from 1 to 11. You see how she, from 1 to 100. You see how she tries to remember that when she's in the tens, she puts up this finger that's indicating she's on the 10. So when she reaches 10, it's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. When she reaches 20, she puts up the second finger so that she knows that she's in the 20s. Then 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. Then when she's at 30, she puts up the third finger, 31, 32, 33, 34, 35, 36. 37, 38, 39, 40, then she puts up the fourth finger, and so on and so forth. By the time she's in her 50s, she's very comfortable with 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 though. But it's the first ones that she struggles. So that's an example of a strategy that the child is using to remember what comes after the 20s and what comes after the 30s and what comes after the 40s and what comes after the 50s. So her numbers, her fingers enable her to remember that. The concrete operational thought, it's the age there is around when they are very concrete, 2 to 5. Advantages in thought, mental operations, reversibility, egocentrism, hierarchy of classes, conservation. So that's how they are. They start to be more organized in their thinking and in what is important and what needs to be remembered, and what are the things that that don't need to be remembered in those stages. And of course there are limitations because they are still growing. Then academic achievement, school readiness tests. So some parents believe that their children are so advanced that they should not start grade 1 when they are 7. They should start grade 1 when they are 6, some even when they are 5. They take their kids to school. That's when psychologists come in and we do school readiness tests. Some schools have got those tests, so they don't need to be administered by a psychologist. But if you believe your child is advanced and they are delaying your child by waiting, especially in private schools. So in public schools, children can start grade R when they are 5, or when they turn 5 within the first 6 months of that particular year. They can start grade R, but in private schools, they must do grade R only when they are 6. They're only, unless you are very stubborn and you are like, no, my child is supposed to be in grade R or in grade 1, and then they will ask you to do a school readiness where they assess the child, and then if your child passes, they can go and do the grade that you believe they should be doing, or you go to another school and maybe you'll be lucky there. So that's how it goes in terms of the school readiness, parents readiness. Because sometimes I've got a friend of mine, they did the whole school readiness thing for their son, because they wanted the son to start grade 1 when she is 6 instead of 7. So now he is going to do grade R rather, and he's 5. So he passed the school readiness test at school, but now the mom is now not ready, because she feels like, oh, he's too young. What about cleanliness? She's scared of COVID. What if the other kids don't wear a mask? She's got a bit of OCD. So not only the child, but the school, the parents. Reception year is grade R. So the R for grade R, many people don't know. It stands for reception year. So don't. You ask them, what does grade R mean? They're like, it's the grade before grade 1. No, it's reception year. The R stands for reception year. So there are advantages of school readiness. When children are ready for school, they mingle with other kids, they get to learn rules, they get to learn new strategies. For example, I was speaking earlier about strategies of memory, how they use strategies to remember important things. When they're at school, they see other kids do things differently, and the teachers also teaching them differently. So they use other ways of organizing memory, and which is organizing their thoughts and trying to regulate their memory as well. Okay, achievement, motivation, and learning orientation. Oh, sorry about that. Okay, so we go to, apart from quality education practices, achieving success in school is related to a number of additional factors, such as achievement, motivation, and learning orientation, parental attitude and encouragement, socioeconomic status, the school environment, teacher engagement, and educational policies in that particular school. Okay, let's go to achievement motivation. This refers to the degree to which a person chooses to engage in and keep trying to accomplish challenging tasks. So again, those of you who are exposed to these young people, we mustn't encourage them to give up. Because when you talk about achievement motivation, you must see that the child has the motivation to achieve. So even if it's tying a shoe, if they don't do it right and they want to give up now because they're not doing this thing, they're not getting it, and they get demotivated, your role as the primary caregiver or as the adult is to try again, baby. Encourage that child. What you're doing when you're doing that, you are trying to build their achievement motivation. You're trying to motivate them to achieve and to finish a task. They mustn't just leave it like that because they're giving up. If you need to help, you assist. So it's accomplishing challenging tasks. That's according to Cook and Cook. Children's achievement involves a complex interaction between their beliefs, that is about why they are doing or why they do or do not achieve, their values, for example, the importance and benefit of achieving, and their psychological goals. So all these things, what do they believe about themselves? What do they believe about that particular task? Do they think that is a task that needs to be finished? So if they are tying their shoes and they're not doing it right, you need to say, no, baby, you didn't do it right. This is how you do it. And you show them again and be patient. I know it can be a little bit difficult, but to be patient when you know how to do it. But remember, we've all been there. We've all been to that. Okay, children generally make attributions about why they succeed or fail. Attributions, that is ascribing a specific characteristics to oneself or another person, tend to focus on 5 factors. That is the ability, effort, luck, task difficulty, and strategy use. Some of these factors are internal, that is ability, effort, strategy use, while others are external. Luck is external, you don't come with it, well, depending on what you believe. Task difficulty is also external. In addition, some are more stable and controllable than others. Okay, so some of the characteristics of children who are successful and characteristics of children who are not so successful is also dependent on some of these motivation goals and mastery orientation versus a helpful orientation. We're going to go now to the so children who are successful generally, children who are successful, who do well generally, have the following characteristics, right? They develop a mastery orientation. This is the tendency to attribute their success to internal and controllable factors such as hard work and ability, and their failure to controllable or challengeable factors such as effort, strategy, and difficulty. These children also tend to hold an incremental view of ability. This is the belief that they can improve their ability. They also focus on learning goals. This means that their aim is to learn new things so that they can improve their abilities. So in general, children tend to be high in achievement motivation because achieving success in challenging tasks validates their ability, their belief in their ability. So on the other hand, children who are unsuccessful generally show the following characteristics. They tend to develop helpless orientation. This is the tendency to attribute success to external uncontrollable factors such as luck, and attribute failure to internal and stable factors such as ability. So when children who are generally successful, they say, because I'm smart, I was able to do this because I'm very smart. So they attribute success to internal factors. It's not luck. Children who are generally successful never say I was lucky. They will say I was smart. But children who generally are unsuccessful, they tend to have a more focus on external factors. I'm not lucky, or he won, or he did the task first, or won the task because he was lucky. So it's still not because of internal attributes, but they attribute external attributes instead. Let's just go to the table on table 5.2, mastery versus helpless orientation, so that you understand. So the children who have a more mastery orientation tend to be much more successful than the children who have helpless orientation. The ones who are helpless because it's out of their control, so they feel helpless. Again, things such as lack or the difficulty of the task and. Okay, so attributes to success, success to hard work and skill. So children who have mastery orientation, they believe because I'm a hard worker, because I'm skilled, because I'm smart, because I know how to do this. So it's about them, it's internal. Attributes failure to lack of effort and knowledge. So once on the other hand, the helpless orientation, they attribute everything to lack. I was successful at this task, I was just lucky. You know, it's not internal, it's external, because luck is an external thing. They attribute failure to lack of ability. So when they fail at a task, it's because they were not able to do it. Hence, I was saying earlier, you encourage them. If they fail, you say, try again, try and do it this way. What you are trying to do when you do that, you are trying to get them to have a mastery orientation where they try to master a task because of internal attributes and not external attributes. Okay, it's of their mastery orientation children, they are optimistic about future success even after failure. So they're very optimistic about life, versus the other children who have got the helpless orientation. It's a pessimistic child. They're pessimistic about their future success. Even after they've succeeded in a task, they are still generally pessimistic. They are not optimistic. Again, the mastery orientation child, these are the children who are likely to be more successful. They engage in positive self-talk. They engage in self-encouragement. They hold positive expectation. So they will say, you can do it. Even if you are having a task with them and they're trying to encourage you, because they're also very good motivators. They say, you can do it, mama. You can do it, daddy. You know, that's what they do, because they engage in positive. They're generally positive. The way they talk about themselves is, I can do this. Come on. They're trying to motivate themselves. Versus the helpless orientation children, they engage in negative self-talk. They're very anxious and scared. I'm not brave. They will say, I'm not brave to do this. I don't think I'm brave, because they've got the negative self-talk. And then again, mastery orientation children ask for help when they need it. They see getting help as an opportunity to improve skills. So versus the other children who have got the helpless orientation, they avoid seeking help. They don't want to be helped, because it's a confirmation of their poor ability for them. But the children who are likely to be more successful, they want help. They will ask, can you please help me, mama? Can you please help me, teacher? How do I do this? Because they understand that when they get help, it means that they are going to gain knowledge on how to do things. But the children who have got the helpless orientation, they shy away from asking for help, because to them, it's a confirmation that they do not have the ability to do the task. I hope it makes sense. Then the last two, the mastery orientation kids persist in difficult tasks. They try to find new strategies. So they persist, and when they want to do something in a certain way and then it fails, they try to do it in another way. Versus the helpless orientation, they decrease in the effort. So they fail once and they don't want to try again. They fail twice, they definitely don't want to try again. And when they fail for the third time, they will cry if you try to force them to do it. They don't want to try again. But the children who are likely to want to succeed, they will try again. They will try to do it different ways so that they can get the desired outcome. Mastery orientation children seek challenging tasks. They view them as a way to increase their ability. So they like to challenge themselves, and because they see that it's going to increase our ability. I'll give you an example. So we've got stairs here. They're not a lot. There's like what? Steps, not stairs. There's like 4 steps at the back. And when my daughter was young, she could jump from the second step. But when she saw other children who are bigger than her jumping from the 4th step to the ground, she was also eager to try it, even though it was a difficult task. But because she sees other children doing that, she's gonna try that. And then has learning goals, seeks to learn new strategies and skills. That's the master orientation. Whereas the other children, they has performance goals, seeks to perform well to confirm ability to self and others. So they perform, they do things for the sake of performing, whereas the other children, they do things because they want to learn. They've got learning goals. Okay, so the parent contributions is to motivational style. The parenting style is very important for growing children. Parents need to be motivating their kids. I was making examples in the earlier slides, and just the style generally of parents is important because it also contributes to how the child is either a mastery orientation child or a helpless orientation child or helpless orientated child. Socioeconomic statuses, we live in South Africa, we know this very well, that they also have a contribution in the development of child, especially cognitive development, and where the child goes to school, where the child grows up, what the child is involved in and is exposed to, the community involvement in raising children is also important. School contribution, the classroom climate, the type of teacher, whether there's corporal punishment, educational policy in schools, those are all very important. Okay, then we've got children with special needs. Unfortunately, in this country, there's not enough schools and there's not enough parents that know how to parent children with intellectual disabilities, with learning disabilities, with ADHD, children who are gifted. They've got gifts and they seem to be smarter than most of their teachers. That's an example of a gift. And creative children. Okay, let's go to personality development and the contents, the theories of personality development, self-understanding, emotional development, and how do they make sense at this stage of development. Okay, we've spoken at length about psychoanalytic approaches, the development of competence here, psychoanalytic approaches, the psychoanalytic approach to child development. We know that according to them, a child's personality develops by the time they are 6 to 7 years old, and when there are crises that are not met, then it can lead to some development of competence or not competence. Self-understanding, self-concept and self-esteem. The child's self-concept is also linked to how they understand themselves, their characteristics, and how much they have self-esteem or self-confidence and self-efficacy. Okay, so for example of what I'm saying, let's look at this. My name is Christine. I am a girl. I'm not pretty, but I'm a friendly and honest person. I'm a bit short for my age. I do not do well in sport and can play piano so. I do well in school and I'm proud of that. I know many boys and girls. Some of them like me, but others don't. In the past, I used to lose my temper, but I'm now better with that. That's an example of a child that the sort of balanced self-esteem, but there's still some issues there. Emotional development, developmental changes, emotional intelligence. So how can children's self-esteem be increased? What coping strategies do children use in fearful situations? I want you to answer me in the discussion board these questions. How can children's emotional intelligence be enhanced? And then in terms of social development, the role of the family, peer relationships, the influence of the media, moral development, religion. Let's go to the role of the family. the role of the family is very important in the social development of children. It needs to be as balanced as possible. So if you've got a mother and a father as a child who stays with only a mother and a father who never go out, they are always at home, it affects the growth and how the child socializes with other children or with other people. Because mom and dad are always at home, it means that the child only socializes with the mom and the dad, which is not really socialization. So it can affect the social development of the child. It also has a bit of advantages as well. A child who spends most of their time with adults sometimes speaks like as if she's an adult or he's an adult, because they don't spend too much time with children, so they tend to converse and say things that adults do. So if a child, for example, is a child of a psychologist, I'm just joking, you'll hear them talk about clients. How many clients do you have today? Because that's the language that's mainly used at home. Peer relationships are important. Children should be encouraged to be friendly with their peers, so that they develop their social skills and they know right from wrong, what is right that their friend did and what is wrong. And also, I mean, most of us are religious or spiritual beings, and children should be exposed to that as well. So the parent-child relationship, the nature of the relationship is very important. Co-regulation. The children should also see how the parents also regulate their emotions. And if they fight, if a child sees mom and dad fight, they also need to also see, they shouldn't ideally see them fight, especially aggressive fights. But if that does happen, they also need, there is also value in the child seeing how these parents resolve conflict. Models of influence. Parents affect model, child effects model, the bidirectional. So the models of influence, the child can influence the parents in terms of how they parent, and also the parents influence how children also behave at times. So parents' role in children's development: direct instructions, indirect socializers. They are social managers. They need to be engaging in those settings as well. So discipline. Features of positive discipline are parental behavior, rules and limits, choices, consistency, positive feedback, and punishment that teaches. Remember, children do what we do, not what we say. Sibling relationships and only children. The nature of sibling relationships in middle childhood, patterns of relationships, and only children. Okay, let's look at that more in depth. So in addition to parents, siblings are important sources of support for children in middle childhood. However, sibling rivalry tends to increase as the children grow older. I'm sure some of you still have sibling rivalry with some of your siblings. Some of you are probably not talking to your siblings because you never got to that stage where you guys just get along and you are not in competition. Or if you are, it's a healthy competition with each other. So as children participate in wider range of activities, parents often compare siblings' traits and accomplishments, which is very bad. Parents shouldn't do that, but I don't see them stopping. The child who gets less parental affection, more disapproval, or fewer material resources is likely to be resentful. In some cases, sibling bullying may occur. Bullying is linked to conflictual competitiveness and hostile relationships with siblings, as well as the inability to understand the other's state of mind. This may result in rivalry and jealousy, frequent hostile and aggressive behavior, and low levels of empathy. Furthermore, sibling bullying seems to significantly be associated with bullying in the context of peer relationships. Although conflict between siblings rises during the stages, children in middle childhood continue to rely on one another for companionship and assistance. Siblings whose parents are preoccupied and less involved with them sometimes fill in and become more supportive to one another. So although siblings may bring benefits such as the companionship, the support that they get from each other, they are not essential for healthy development. So you don't have to go and have 3 children or 5 children or 10 children because of the benefits of having siblings. Contrary to popular belief, only children are not necessarily spoiled. In fact, okay, let me not get into it right now. Instead, not only are they as well adjusted as other children, but may be advanced in some other respects. For example, only children score higher in self-esteem and achievement motivation. They do. I'm not saying you guys should have one children also, but they do. Most people think that because someone was an only child, they are spoiled, but evidence doesn't support that at all. Consequently, they do better in school and attain higher levels of education. They generally do better in life. Only children also do not differ from children with siblings in social skills and peer pressure, so they are also just as competitive as children who have got siblings. However, culture may play a role in how only children are viewed, as siblings' relationship in some cultures are crucial in the socialization process. So yes, other studies, for those of you who want me to bring other dimensions that are not in the textbook. Anyway, so other studies have shown that only children are actually the most reliable. They're very reliable. They almost have got traits of the firstborn. They are very reliable. They are trustworthy, they are very dependable, and almost always independent. And you can understand why. There was no one else to do the dishes. They were the only ones who were going to do the dishes. There was no one else who they could compare themselves to. They always had to do well and set the bar very high for themselves. So friendships and peer relationships are also important. Children also want to be accepted, so they want peer acceptance is very important. They want status as well. They want to be able to have friends and belong to a group of friends even when they are at school. It's an example or a confirmation that they've been accepted by their peers. In as much as there are advantages to peer relationships, there can also be peer victimization, where the children are bullied, and because the peers can see that this child wants to belong so much, they can also start bullying the child, especially when they enter into a new school, enter into a new province, or into a new town. Children tend to be more susceptible to being bullied and are likely to be victims of bullying. This is when they need their parents the most. Sometimes you see a child who's in a new place, in a new school, in a new town. Maybe they've moved with a mother, or they've recently moved with the father. They can be very aggressive at home, and you don't understand, why is this child so aggressive? It's because what has happened is the child was moved from a place where he or she was very familiar, already had established friends and established some form of peer acceptance, and now they have to start all over again, and it's very tough for these little people. It's very tough. Now they have to start making new friends again, start to be in a new setting, and now they have to be accepted by their peers in that. So sometimes the way that they act out some of these behaviors and the frustrations that they're getting from school is you see them displaying some aggression at home because they're trying to figure things out at school. The media influence. Right now we've got YouTube Kids. I mean, our children live on YouTube. They eat in front of YouTube. They are very influenced, sometimes positively, by YouTube. If you want your child to learn to do something very quickly, find a video on YouTube of how another child does that. It challenges them. It makes them to want to do that thing. So YouTube is not always bad, or the media influence and television is not always bad. But sometimes it has got some negative connotations where your children can learn bad attitudes. They can learn how to do bad things like drugs. They can be early exposed. So there's early exposure to sexual attitude and to violence and aggression. So that's why we need to always watch what our kids watch. Computer technology, I mean, most children have got their own phones from the age of 2, and they know how to work these phones. And of course, there is some advantage to reasons for why children are using, and some disadvantages for using for cell phones, and children being exposed to cell phones. In middle childhood, children also develop a moral compass, moral development, where they know what is good and what is wrong. They know that they shouldn't, for example, be naked and be seen naked by other people except for mom and dad, and maybe auntie if there's an auntie at home. So they know that they shouldn't be kissing boys or kissing girls. They know that you can't swear, that's a bad word. They know bad words and good words. They will ask you and they will tell you when they come back from school that, do you know that so swear, you used a bad word at school. So they're also learning their moral development, also being developed as well. Their moral behavior. Skinner talks about punishment and reward. When it's talking about operant conditioning, how you reward good behavior and you punish bad behavior. And of course, we know about imitation and observation. Hence, I said earlier, children tend to do what they see being done and not what they hear. Okay. So some of the things that we can use to promote morally competent behavior: family factors, peer, those are things that promote moral competent behavior, the peer factors, the friends, and empathy factors. Okay, we almost done. Religion and spirituality, the advantages for children, stages of faith. Of course, religion and spirituality are very good and they pose an advantage for a lot of children. They learn how to socialize. It also helps to enhance their moral compass. And sometimes some children who are gifted may find that religion and spirituality support that fact. Okay, critical issues, and I want you guys to discuss these in the discussion board. What is the difference between punishment and discipline? Discuss corporal punishment in the home. How can parents promote competencies for positive sibling relationships? Discuss trends in play, toy, and material for the different age groups. How can parents protect their children from inappropriate internet and cell phone exposure? Please discuss these in your tutorial groups if you can, and also in the discussion board if you've got time. Thank you so much for listening to this slide. This was longer. This chapter the narration was longer, but I hope you did enjoy it. I will see you again, or you will see me again, when I upload the chapter 6 narrations, because I'm going to be doing chapter 6 as well. Again, please feel free to come see me in my office on Thursday between 10 and 12 if you've got any questions or things that you need me to clarify. Otherwise, you are free to use your tutorials for some of those things. I love this chapter. It was great. Thank you guys.